All right, folks, welcome back to the New Sentinel. It's Vinny Morelli here, back in the saddle with my man Ranger Reed. We're diving headfirst into a political firefight today. Yeah, the big leagues. We're talking Dems, we're talking reps, and the lonely island that is the third-party hustle. So let's start with the blue crew, Democrats. Reed, these guys right now look more like a crew after a botched bank job. You got the progressives, AOC, the squad, screaming one way, Biden and Schumer trying to play den mother, and meanwhile the suburbs are getting antsy about prices at the grocery store. It's like a family dinner where half the table wants vegan, half wants steak, and nobody's got enough to pay the check. You feel me?
Yeah, Vinny, I do. Democrats are dealing with a classic split in the ranks, right? The squad's pushing hard on climate, racial justice, student loans, all that, while the establishment is laser-focused on basics like, hey, let's try to keep the lights on and not lose the Midwest. But I keep thinking, if you're stuck arguing at the rally, you're not winning at the ballot box. Meanwhile, folks at home are worried about inflation, jobs. I remember in the Army, we said, cover your sector, keep your lines tight. Their lines aren't tight at all. If they don't get unified on bread and butter stuff, reproductive rights, inflation, pocketbook issues, they're just handing ammo to the other side.
Couldn't agree more. And listen, I gotta say it. The streets remember what the courts forget. You remember the DNC leak back in 2016? All those emails, all that drama. It wasn't the crime, it was the betrayal. That sort of thing burrows into the trust. Just like a crew that can't get its story straight after a busted job, nobody outside's ever going to trust them again unless they show real unity. That's why now they got to sharpen the economic pitch, make themselves look like one crew with one story. Because when the people in the back room start ratting or talking out both sides of their mouths, you lose respect, you lose power, and you ain't getting it back fast.
That's it. I mean, Democrats forget voters remember the fallout. You don't win hearts with policy papers. You win them by showing you got their backs. Make it clear on reproductive rights, yeah, but also on prices at the pump or rent. If you can't nail down inflation messaging, you're fighting with one hand tied behind your back. Same as when you're holding a perimeter, but don't have enough ammo. You gotta improvise, or you're done. And every time the Dems squabble in public, it hands over field position to the other team.
And let's be honest, trying to unify a party like that's like pulling off a sit-down after a failed heist. Everyone's watching their own back. Nobody's thinking about the big picture. If they can't come out with a united message, sharpen up for the working class, this fall they're going to end up as just another cautionary tale. Next thing you know, we're doing another episode about how the blue team fumbled it again.
Now, let's swing over to the GOP side of the field. Vinny, I gotta say, they may look more unified on the outside, but under that surface, you've got some real tectonic plates shifting. Trump's still the big dog, keeps that MAGA base tight. But you got folks like McConnell, Nikki Haley, trying to play the grown-ups in the room. This isn't a quiet house either. Remember old training days? Sometimes the loudest guy in the squad ain't running the show.
You got that right, Ranger. Trump is the capo. No one wants to outshine him. Nobody wants to cross him either, unless you like getting your career buried in the desert. Power respects power, I always say. Now listen, these hardliners, the law and order crowd, they're smart. They grab onto the culture war, throw it into overdrive, start talking about border messes, inflation, crime waves. Doesn't matter if the numbers back them up, it's about who controls the narrative. The GOP keeps their discipline by crushing any open dissent. Look at Florida. Used to swing one way, now it's ground zero for red dominance. That happened because the party moved together, like a crew closing ranks after a score. Dissenters? They get the message. Get on board or get lost.
Yeah, and they've really doubled down. Push that law and order. Keep the base fired up over schools, immigration, whatever riles people up. It's divisive, but it brings out their support in rural counties and suburbs. That's the winning play. Keep your people angry about what matters to them. Herd them to the polls. I mean, it's not pretty, but it's how you hold territory. Unity becomes a weapon, just like we've talked about with power in previous episodes. Each time someone steps out of line, the message is clear. They close ranks, keep the show rolling. You gotta respect the steel, even if you don't like the tactic.
And that's the difference. The Democrats are bickering over the check. Republicans, they're running the joint and flipping the table if anyone argues. That's how you keep a crew scared, loyal, effective. Like a boss who never lets anyone see him sweat. If the GOP keeps this unity, they'll keep setting the pace, maybe even strong-arm the narrative on inflation, crime, whatever else is headline news. Other side better watch, 'cause power, like I always say, only respects power.
Let's not forget, there's always someone on the outside of the main tent. Third parties, yeah? You got libertarians, the Greens, these new no-labels folks trying to muscle in. But the walls are high. Ballot access? That's an uphill fight in most states. You barely get your name printed, let alone a spot on the debate stage.
Right, and the thing is, these folks, they're like the minor family trying to get a seat at the commission table. Never outshine the capo, that's what I say. Ross Perot in '92, he shook things up, sure, forced the big guys to change their playbook, but he never got the throne. These parties got to play it smart. Focus on what the bosses ignore. Maybe it's climate, maybe campaign finance or free speech. But don't waste time on the White House. Build a stronghold regionally. Take a slice of turf no one's defending. Make yourself enough of a nuisance that the big parties got to pay you off or steal your ideas.
Exactly. There's a big pool of frustrated voters out there. But you gotta give them a reason to risk their vote, you know? If you're a third-party outfit, you gotta be crystal clear on what makes you different. Show real plans, not just complaints. Otherwise, you don't even get on the field. We saw this in earlier episodes. Big players don't like sharing the game. You become relevant by being impossible to ignore in your corner, not by swinging wild at the champ in round one.
You said it. Maybe you force the hand, tweak the script. The big families might never let you run the show, but a real player, even off to the side, makes everybody sharpen up. It's chess, not checkers. And that's what keeps American politics spinning like a fixed roulette. All right, Ranger, always a pleasure. Folks, remember, the streets remember what the courts forget. Stay sharp, stay aware. We'll catch you next time.
Good talking, Vinny. And for everyone tuning in, keep asking questions. Keep thinking for yourselves. See you next time on the New Sentinel.